Welcome to day 95 of the 300 movie challenge. Today we watched the highest grossing film of April. Yes, April 2002, which was My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Uh, Completely unimportant thing I want to bring up just at the beginning so I don't forget.
Mm.
It really bothers me when people use uppercase sigmas in place of E's.
Mm.
Oh
Because
yeah,
the
I
uppercase
noticed that
sigma
too.
is an
It's
S.
S. Yeah.
I know it looks like an E, and this is really minor and petty and stupid, but it's an S. It's not an E. If anything, the Greek letter that is represents E is epsilon, which looks like an E, so it doesn't even work. Anyway,
I think I can speak for all of us in saying that while we had heard that this was a good movie, we all went in with low expectations just due to all the other things that we've watched
yeah.
Yeah.
previous to this. But I actually really enjoyed this movie.
This is now my favorite rom-com of
Yeah.
all of the rom-coms we have watched.
Yes, definitely, I can agree with that. Because it didn't even center too much on the romance. It was more of like a family movie in the end, I think.
Yeah, it was more of her kind of, I guess, coming to terms with her very strange family and trying to, I guess her main thing was that she was trying to fit in and like getting married to this pretty normal American dude was about as much fitting in as she like had to ever do in her life. So I thought that was interesting.
I didn't expect how much, like, when me and Mayan were watching this movie, we were just like, oh my god. We could
Oh, yeah,
relate
all
so
of-
much with this.
All of the parallels to Asian families.
And also white people interacting with Asian and just people of any other race.
Yeah, like the first scene where the Ian's parents were like, "Oh yeah, you had a receptionist who was Greek too," and she was just like,
And,
Oh,
and of
yeah.
course it ends up being Guatemalan.
Yeah.
completely different, and like just all the stuff with like the invasive, huge family.
Yeah. Like, it's always like, oh, you're Indian. Yeah, I have a friend who's Indian. It's like, that's great.
That's great. I have a family member that's Indian.
No, see, you should, like, literally the next time someone says that, you should just be like, I too have Indian friends.
Or like,
Or no,
oh
no, no,
yeah.
no, instead be like, oh, I have white friends too, or something.
And like my favorite line was like when the Greek dad Gus, he was like, these people, they're like toast, they're just like so dry like toast, and I couldn't stop laughing.
A really minor thing that I could relate on to is that, especially in India and stuff, when you go to people's houses, no matter how much you say that you're full and everything, you will be forced to eat something.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, let me give you this snack. Oh, let me give you this drink and stuff. And you have to, if you're visiting multiple people's houses, you have to like coordinate this. To be like, okay, I'll take one bite from this cookie, and then we have two more houses after this. So I have to like stock. I have to make sure that I have enough room for all the food that's going to be coming and stuff. So when she was talking about that, I was like, I can relate to that.
And then the way they like they serve the food, like they put it out in like huge platters, and they're just like, okay,
Yeah.
just go, and like they have the whole family there. People are out in the yard. I'm just like, these are like Asian families and Asian friend groups, and I'm just like, why is this so familiar?
Yeah. And the one thing is that my immediate family isn't like that. It's more of like everyone else.
The extended,
Like when she was talking about like first cousins and second cousins, I was like, yeah.
the extended fam, and like the traditional
And not
fam,
knowing all their names.
or who people are sometimes.
Yeah.
I think well, I guess like especially like with that scene with like Ian's family and like reacting, and then kind of like getting a sense of this like where just kind of looking a little bit more, I realized that like again I kind of noticed like, oh, you two probably relate to this a good amount.
Mhm.
I don't at all. So if anything, like I honestly just found like Chilla's family to be like really annoying. I mean, like that's kind of the point, sort of. Like annoying. It's well, the point is they're supposed to be kind of like endearingly
Overbearing.
annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just overbearing. Yeah, I mean, it happens when you have a lot of members.
Yeah. So like I get it, but at the same time, like just to me personally, I'm like I just found it annoying, and that's the problem. Is that that's kind of like the crux of the movie.
Mhm.
So to me, it didn't work. I didn't hate it, but there were things like I did like the. Like I mentioned the stuff with like, the conversation with like the Ian's parents about that. That was funny because again like that's something which I kind of did relate to a little bit because I've heard something like that before, and so you know, I think this works really well. Like if you can relate to the situation, and I can't, so I just kind of ended up coming away with kind of, but
Mhm.
it's
sense.
definitely way better than like a lot of other.
Rom-coms.
Yeah.
The rom-coms. Yeah.
So that's definitely true. Is it the best one? I don't know. I mean, I'd have
That
to like
we've
relook at the list again. I feel like I'm forgetting something.
The only other ones that I can think of that are fairly high on my list are Wedding Singer and maybe While You Were Sleeping, but those are kind of like they're not like that high because like
Yeah.
none of us are really rom-com people,
Yeah.
No.
but just comparatively to the other rom-coms we have seen, it's one of the better ones.
Yeah, I'd probably say I like Wedding Singer a little bit more, but not too much. And again, I think Wedding Singer's just kind of as well.
Yeah.
But
I think for me, it wasn't even the romantic aspect of it.
It was the family part.
it was the family part.
well, see, that's the thing for me. Like, I actually kind of like the romance between these two.
Yeah, it is a nice romance.
So-
It's not to say that it's a
not.
bad. It's a really. It works.
Mm.
And I
It's
also
just not
like
in
the fact that he didn't like. They didn't make a drama thing about him like not going through with anything and stuff either, and making
Or if
a
the whole like if the family actually like caused them to break apart, or like that would have pissed me off because that would have been worse.
Yeah.
that
Because
would
he's
have been like Meet the Parents.
because he's just like a normal, nice person. So
Yeah.
it works very well.
He's like the
you know.
nice bread that you
He's
just
a
lightly
human
toasted.
being.
The lightly
Sorry.
toasted bread. But-
Nice, understanding.
I guess
accept-
I can kind of relate in that angle because like again sort of like with like the person who I'm with is kind of like comes from a different background and family and that kind of stuff, so I kind of understand in the terms of like just kind of not really knowing like what is true on that other side in a sense, but I don't know.
It makes sense. Don't worry.
So, I can definitely understand why like you two would like it more. And again, I didn't outright like say like, oh, this sucked or whatever. It's like the thing is again, for me, it basically comes down to the fact that I found the family just like too obnoxious.
Yeah, that's pretty.
And not relatable. So because of that, it brings it down to like a bit less than neutral. But it's not, yeah, so...
I'm sure they. Well, I can't say that I'm sure because I don't know how Greek culture is, like, completely and stuff to say if this is, like, an accurate depiction or whatever. But they probably made it a little bit more over the top, but at least
Well,
you
yeah,
could
I'm sure.
Yeah. And stuff. Because I know, at least in my family, they're accepting of all sorts of people too, and I'm sure there are a lot of Greek families that aren't like, no, girls can't go to school and learn things. So I don't think
Yeah.
yeah. but there are certain things that I could relate to.
Yeah,
Like-
I definitely could see that, and like,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, we're all.
Yeah, I guess it really just comes down to like, I think it really comes down to like just how much you could kind of relate to the story yourself.
I do think that if you can relate to at least Tula, yeah, if you can relate to her, then you'll definitely find it more enjoyable. Just because
Yeah, I
like you can
agree.
put yourself in her position, and be like, oh, this has happened to me before, or like, yeah, this is kind of similar to how people I know act and things like that. It's if you can put yourself in her position, and if you have experienced that before, then you would probably find it a lot more enjoyable. But if you haven't had that kind of experience, then it will be up to the characters to make it up.
Yeah.
It's
So
kind
I
of
think that's
say-
completely understandable.
well, it's also
I will oh,
You-
you can go first.
okay, because I was also thinking that especially, it's not just like a cultural thing. It's also kind of like a women's message, in terms of, again, like the whole, like, why do you need to go to college and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
that's another kind of angle of it that like you two would relate to more, right? So
That's true.
yeah, so that's another thing about it. Anyway, go ahead, Tara.
Oh, I was gonna agree with Mayan, and then I was also gonna say that actually Tula is better than me because I'm completely uncultured Indian.
I mean, I'm not that cultured myself. It's just being put in that environment. It's like you're just so used to it after a while
Yeah.
that it's easy to laugh about it after it's happened to you so many times.
Yeah. No, but when she was explaining about Greek school and everything, I was just like, that's far better than me. I remember, one of my Indian friends were like, "You're such an ABCD." And I was like, "What's an ABCD?" And she was, wait, I forgot what the acronym stands for.
American-born confused Desi? Is that it?
Something like that. There'll probably be someone in the comments that will correct us on that.
Maybe.
On whatever it was.
I mean, as revealed in February's episode, I don't really speak Vietnamese. I just know a couple of
Yeah,
words.
me and Mayan are both very bad.
We're basically American, but we've been exposed to the motherland culture. So,
Yes,
'Cause-
as I've also mentioned with Bollywood movies here and there too.
Because you were both, or wait, no, you weren't. Never mind. Because wait,
Hmm?
you were born technically in Japan,
I was
right?
born. Yeah, I was born abroad, but I have been raised American. Like my
Yeah.
mom made it a point to not teach me Vietnamese first because she didn't want me to like be awkward and not interact with the children when I went to school.
Mm.
So she gave me the option to learn Vietnamese or not. In the end, I chose not to because I'm extremely shy, so I don't want to like interact with some of my relatives because they're a bit weird. So, yeah.
I guess on the opposite side, I was born like about 20 minutes away from my house in
Okay.
in America.
Yeah, because I thought you were born here, so I couldn't remember that.
Yeah. And then I guess random fact, my mom purposely made me and my brother's names really short because a lot of Indian names are really long
Yeah.
and stuff.
Mhm.
But she purposely made it short so that whenever we had to file for any forms or put our names down for anything, that it would be really short and it would definitely fit in the spaces.
Yeah.
So even for my middle name, she made sure that she could get rid of a letter so that it would be a little bit shorter.
That was definitely a good thing to do because I can't find the hyphen whenever I try to like fill in the bubbles for a test. Like I have a really ethnic ass name, so yeah. It was a struggle because I would find the hyphen in the last name column, but it wasn't in the first name column. So
That
y'all
does-
better fix that for us.
For me, I
weird
had a
people.
different problem with my name, where it is actually an ethnic name, but it's also an ethnic name in a lot of other places.
Oh,
Specifically Ireland, I think.
Interesting.
Is it Ireland or is it Irish or Scottish?
I think Irish.
It is
I think
Irish.
You
Yeah.
might be right. I'm not sure.
I might be
though.
right. I'm not sure, but basically, I was the only Indian Tara. I still am the only Indian Tara that I'm aware of.
I mean, my issue
But,
is just that like nobody ever like knows how to pronounce my name.
It feels like it's so simple.
No,
but
I
then
know.
again,
I don't get
Yeah.
it. It's like, okay, I can see. The thing is, I can see like the couple different pronunciations, but like, it's just weird that it's like so many people get it wrong. It's like I feel there's like two options. Shouldn't it be like 50-50? But it's like almost everyone gets it wrong the first time. It's
How
Yeah.
else do people pronounce it? There's Valen and then there's what?
like Valon.
Valage.
Oh, I
Yeah,
can
and that's like what
confuse.
that's like always what they say like doctors' offices and crap like that, and it's just like really. Actually, what's
Valage.
funny is that like, I've been like taking Lyft recently for like some community stuff every now and then, and most of them get it right. So
Oh.
you know, go good for them.
Props to Lyft. Take Lyft.
I don't know. I mean, they're for some reason.
We're not sponsored.
I mean, they can. I don't care. But call me. Okay. So for some reason, like at least in my area, a lot of the people who drive for Lyft are like Middle Eastern men.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which is kind of random. I don't know. Whatever. But so maybe that's why that like they get it right. Maybe
Oh,
there's
I
something to do with
see.
that. I have no idea. But yeah, it's usually them or like black women. But anyway,
Huh.
it's weird. I don't know. Whatever.
I guess yeah, it is probably just a.
Oh yeah, right.
Pronunciation.
Another thing I wanted to add was, Ryan, you said that you had a choice between learning Vietnamese or not.
Yes.
The sad thing with me is that my mom and my grandparents tried, but failed to try and teach me them.
Cool. Wait, what language was it that you were?
Mine is Tamil.
Okay,
But-
alright.
I can understand it to an
Mhm.
extent, but speaking it is a very weak point. And then I
Yeah,
learned
that's-
later on, I was like, okay, maybe I can try learning how to write it, and then that will be something. So then I go and ask my mom, and I'm just like, hey mom, can you teach me how to write? And then she told me reluctantly that Tamil was actually her worst language in school.
Which is why she
And the
became an
reason-
English major.
So she was like, I was so happy in college when I just had to only take one Tamil class and then the rest of my classes were English. And I was like, well, there goes that.
Yeah, no, on the
'Cause-
whole,
'cause
like,
weren't we looking-
understanding.
Go ahead.
Yeah, on the whole understanding the language thing, I can also understand Vietnamese, but I can only understand the southern dialect
Like,
of Vietnamese because, like, okay, here's another Vietnamese lesson for you guys. So there's this word "Dao," and I knew someone like in the extended family who would say "Dao" a lot, and in the northern dialect that means myself, like when you refer to yourself.
mm.
In the southern dialect, I kept processing it as rice porridge. So I turned to my parents and I was like, does she want to eat rice porridge?
Oh my god.
So I was just like,
And then your parents are like, no, she's just communist.
Oh my god.
yeah, no, they were just like, no, she's just from the north. She's from Hanoi. And I was just like, oh. Because like my mom, like her family is from Saigon. And I'm not going to say the new name because I do not agree with it. But they're from Saigon and they just speak the southern dialect. So whenever I hear the northern dialect, I just can't understand it because even though they only replace like one or two sounds, it doesn't sound like Vietnamese to me. And then the whole thing with Jiao, I'm just like, right. You're talking in the northern dialect, you're not hungry.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So there's another Vietnamese lesson for you guys.
Yeah, I don't exactly have any experience with that at all. Any sort of language with that, since it's, you know, all just
I guess
been English
for
forever.
me, the thing is that one time someone asked me they were like, oh, they asked me something in Hindi, and I was like, I can't understand what you're saying. And they were like, aren't you Indian? Shouldn't you speak Hindi? And I was like, no, because there's actually like a lot of languages in India.
Hindi is northern India.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'm from South India, so
Like as south as you can get.
like even the next state over, like if you just look at like I have a friend and she's Telugu, which is like the next state, and she's from the next state from like the state that my mom is from and stuff. Completely different language and completely different alphabet and stuff. And for my cousin's wedding, the priest was speaking Telugu, and I looked at my mom and I was like, Mom, what is he saying? And she's like, I have no idea. I don't think
Yeah, it's interesting, like,
wonderful.
because languages are like divided up into like families and groups and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
here's your cultural language lesson, I guess. One of like the really broad families, I don't remember the exact names for it. It's kind of like, you know, the species classification where there's like higher and higher names for the groups or whatever. But anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but there's this whole like Indo-European like language family, and that includes like everything in all the European languages, like Arabic and like Hindi, right? So, technically, like, you know, English and Hindi are like in the same language family, but then Southern India, all of those languages are in a completely separate family. So,
It's probably the one for like the continental Asian languages,
No.
I imagine.
no, it's a
No?
completely separate one.
Oh,
yes.
by itself?
Yes,
I didn't
so
actually know
it's
that.
yeah, it's a family
Oh.
that's Dravidian, and the Dravidian
Ah.
languages are literally their own family. They're like completely separate from like the other East Asian families, like all that kind of stuff. So
Oh.
you have Hindi, which is more closely related to English than the other languages in India. So yeah.
I should mention that the next time.
Yeah, you should tell your mom and maybe your grandparents.
I'm pretty sure they probably, if not my mom, my grandparents definitely know about that.
So it's just kind of interesting because again, like, you know, I guess getting back to the movie, which we haven't talked about like 15 minutes, the, you know, because people just, you know, standard white people in America, and it's not always necessarily because they're you know, dumb or they're like don't care or whatever. It's just because like they don't know, right?
Yeah.
It's, you know, they think, oh, India, okay, that's a country, so like everyone's the same, right? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because that's stereotypical for like any place who thinks about other countries. I'm sure
Yeah.
people, you know, from India have like a stereotype for all Americans, right? So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, so but it's just kind of interesting to think about like just how much difference there is. Because again, India is it's a pretty large country in size, and then also it has, you know, tons of ethnic groups. It has tons of just people in general, and so it's really easy to kind of forget that. And yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting to think about though, because like America, if you really think about it, America as a country and like our like ethnic makeup is like really rare, because, you know, the country was formed like when people came here, right?
Yeah.
It's not like there were people here and then those people made a country, or a country was made around them. I mean, there were people here, but they died. So, so you know what I mean?
Because
It's
of the people who came. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like they kind of could make the country like as they wanted in a sense, like that made sense to them. Whereas, you know, thinking like Africa and the Middle East and stuff like that, like, you know, Europeans were like, a border goes here, and then, you know, that fucked everything
Yeah.
up. So
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those things where it's like, again, because we think, oh, you know, America has all these people that like work fine together, right? You know, because we think like, oh, because even, I'm sure there's people who like, you know, think like, oh, the minorities are a problem, but like they don't think like, you know, nobody, especially now, is like, you know, oh, those German descendant Americans are different than us Irish descendant Americans. You know, no one gives a shit, right? because like that wasn't. I mean, it was important for like when there was a lot of immigration in like the 1800s when a lot of European immigration was happening. But in terms of like when the country was being set up, like that wasn't really an issue with that regard.
Yeah.
Whereas, you
Yeah.
know, so that's why it's kind of a foreign concept where we see like two people in another country who like basically look kind of the same and are from roughly the same area, and we're like, well, you're the same, right? And it's like, well, you're not. You know what I
No.
mean? It's
Yeah.
just not. It's not familiar to us at all. So
Mhm.
that's something to think about anyway. But anyway, we turned
I
this
think that's
into
a good point to bring up, though.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it does relate to the movie where because it's more so just people having expectations that like you know what they know is how it is,
Yeah.
right? And it's kind of like I was actually talking to my girlfriend about this, but in kind of a sense of like relationships in general, where it's like you know. Where one reason we think that a lot of them don't work is because each person thinks like, oh, well, this is how it works for me, so therefore that's how it must work for them,
Mhm.
right? Even if it's not a relationship thing, it still becomes, you know, an issue in a relationship or whatever because that's
Right.
how it is. So, and I told her, I'm like, look, I don't act like I understand, you know, your own cultural and family situation because I don't, right? I'm not in your position. So if you tell me something is the way it is, I'm gonna believe you because you're the one living it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that
Yeah.
makes sense that you would understand it instead of me just being like, oh, but I did the thing. It's like, you know, you don't know, right? And it doesn't mean
Yeah.
like you should just accept everything they say and not say, well, what about this, right? But it's this kind of like, you know, there's this assumption where it's like, oh, obviously I know how it works because it worked this way for me, or it didn't work this way for me, and it's like, well, you don't know, honestly. So,
Mm.
you know, that's something. But, yeah, whatever. Movie! Talked for
I
like,
guess also a
so-
culture lesson too.
yeah,
Yeah, on the side.
yeah, well, I don't know. So, there you go. Hopefully, you can maybe figure out where you stand on this. If you think that this movie might sit with you, then go ahead. Again, objectively, it's fine, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing really, like, bad about it in that regard. I just don't connect with it, and so,
Yeah,
But you,
which is fine.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's
fine.
how it is.
Bye, everyone.
Yes,
Bye.
bye.